Hello guys, we are back with another, with some more PowerWash Simulator today. I know it's Halloween month, but we we are in the mood again for more PowerWash Simulator. So you'll just have to deal with that. Um, because it's the thing. PowerWash Simulator, I enjoy it. I enjoy PowerWash Simulator. It's very ASMR. It's very ASMR-y. I know ASMR is not everyone's cup of tea. So I understand that, like, some people may not be interested in PowerWash Simulator, but we enjoy it, and it's very D. It's a very soothing and relaxing game. Let's first off, let's clear it clean. Wonder why it's so. Ow, my hand's already cramping. It's probably because I'm holding the mouse button instead of using the auto fire. That's missing a good deal, though. It's better if I switch to this one. More accurate if I go a little bit slower. That's mostly clean already. So we'll move over here. That dirt on my, it's a scratch or something on my screen. Drink some of our coffee. Since it's just a little after coffee time. Welcome in. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Hit you with that do. Welcome in, Cathwick. How's your day going? I hope it's going well. Thank you for stopping in. I hope you're having a great day today. We are vibing with some PowerWash Simulator today. Going quite well, relaxing after... Why did you not scroll down? Relaxing after workday ended. May I ask, if it's not too much information, may I ask what you do for work? If that's not prying too much. What kind of job do you do? Induction and plating. Induction, I'm assuming you mean heat induction, which I've heard of, but I'm not entirely sure what it means. I'm assuming something to do with heat induction to harden different metals. So, are you a blacksmith, armorer? Do you heat metals and like temper them? I hope you know what tempering means. It's like, well, generally, so like, for instance, in blacksmithing, if you were to make a sword, you would superheat the sword. You heat it to a high temperature, and then you quench it. You quench it at a high temperature in oil that is warmed but not cold, and then you get a super hard sword, but it's also brittle because it's so hard. It becomes kind of brittle. So you then temper it. You put it in an oven at a certain temperature for like a day. And you just leave it in the oven for a day at a certain temperature, and it makes the metal more resilient. It takes the brittleness, so the metal ends up staying hard, but it takes away the brittleness, so it's less likely to crack or break as soon as you impact something. Plating we use as an not a blacksmith, but we harden and temper different projects for different jobs and military jobs. Plating we use as an outer casing for some of those items. Exactly, yep. So like, for instance, like you would, the process is exactly as you detailed, yeah. See, I know that from, I watch a TV show called Forged in Fire, which is a blacksmithing show, well, sword knife smithing show. And they go into they don't show the tempering because, and they don't really talk about tempering very often. They'll kind of sometimes mention it in passing, but they do quenches and to harden the swords, and then they or harden weapons, because it's not always swords. Sometimes like they've been made like battle axes or punch knives, etc. But they usually they explain all the different stages and stuff. If you watch it regularly, they explain what tempering is, what quenching is, etc. And how it like affects the weapon. For instance, if you quenched a blade but you didn't temper it afterwards, then like as soon as it strikes a shield or another sword, it's just gonna crack and break like at the point that it hit. So you temper it so that it loses the brittleness, so it is able to be more durable. So I would imagine plating, you would mean like, for instance, you would make you would harden metals and then temper them to, for instance, make like tank, like the outer shell, like the armor of a tank, for instance, or like not necessarily tanks not necessarily that you guys deal with tanks, but like that's one of the things that comes to mind for me when you think of like a hard metal shell. You're not making like a knife, but you're making armor for an object, so that it can withstand blows from, for instance, gunfire, so that the tank is the armor of the tank is less likely to be penetrated by ammunition. I imagine like space shuttles would probably have to be hardened and tempered as well. Although that would be interesting, because you would have to have a hard outer shell to withstand, like, if a meteorite hit it or something. You need it durable enough that it can withstand space junk, particles in space that might hit it and cause cracks or penetration. But you would also need to have, so the shell would have to be hard, but you would also have to have a heat conductor, like a ceramic, for instance, to because as you're going through the atmosphere of the Earth, it gets very hot. So it's going to, the friction causes a lot of heat on the outside of the shuttle, which would the heat from the fire outside the friction outside the shuttle would de-temper. It would ruin the heat temper because it's heating up again, and it can ruin the tempering. So you would need like a ceramic on the outside, but it also has to be, you'd have to have, like, for instance, a metal mixed with ceramic or something to be able to, or you have the metal, but the metal is touching, the metal is the shell of the shuttle is metal, but the metal shell is touching a ceramic plate that would act as a heat conductor, so that the metal doesn't get too hot when exiting the Earth's atmosphere. That way it can still be durable enough to withstand impact from space debris. That would more than likely be a vacuum style of induction, which removes certain things out of the materials, which is often used in aerospace and whatnot. Removes certain things out of the... Removes, like, you mean like impurities? Removing impurities out of the material? Because I know, like... Because I know when forging, for instance, you get oxidation, which is like basically, so like you get forge scale, which comes off the weapons, and like it has to be grinded off, or like usually grinded off. But like as you're moving metal, the metal at the edges is touching, like, for instance, if you use like a press, the metal at the edges touches the press, which is cold-ish, but also it's touching air. And it causes what's called forge scale, which is, I don't entirely know like how it's created, but I know it's like the oxidation and like touching stuff and touching oxygen. It causes forge scale, which is basically, like, think super rust. It's like rust, but where rust is created, rust is created over a period of time from being exposed to water and oxygen. Instead, it's created within seconds, basically. So it's like, it's a super rust, and then you have to like brush that off, etc., so that you have like clean material to work with, especially if you are doing Damascus, which is so like Damascus swords is where you take like multiple types of metal, and you would so like a Damascus sword, you would take like two different different qualities of metal, and you would take and you would press those together, but then you press it into a thin sheet, and then, or like a thin bar, and then you take and you stick you like cut the bar into sections, and then you would press it together again, so that you end up with like multiple layers of steel. So you end up with, so you do that a bunch of times, and eventually you end up with like 200 layers of steel, and it makes the steel more durable, as well as giving it a neat design. Interestingly, the original Damascus, it was created that way because, so what they would do is they would take and add carbon to the metal. So like, for instance, there's a YouTuber I watch that he makes amazing knives, and so I didn't understand it at first. I was like, why is he doing that? And then I looked it up to realize, to teach myself, so I knew. So he'll make, like, for instance, so it's called a canister. You take a outer shell, a box basically, and the box has an opening. So you fill that box with a bunch of metal, and then you take and you put metal powder, steel powder, or aluminum powder, or some metal powder. You put metal powder in to fill the voids between the metals, and so you would have, like, for instance, like a bicycle chain. You cut up a bicycle chain, or steel ball bearings, and there's voids between the ball bearings. So you put this powder in, and the powder fills all those voids. So when you compress it, there's no holes where air would be. It's all just solid steel. So you close the canister. You put a lid on the canister, and you make sure it's fully sealed. But then when you compress that, the canister is usually soft. It's a soft steel, which is called low carbon steel. So low carbon steel is not able to harden. So ideally, you want to get rid of the canister. The canister is solely to hold the high carbon steel, which is on the inside. So you get rid of the canister by either grinding it off or cutting it off, or you don't want the canister on the edge, because you want the edge to remain sharp. low carbon steel doesn't harden, so it's not able to stay sharp. So what you do is you grind off the canister on the edge so that you have a high carbon you have the high carbon from the inside is exposed on the edge, but you have the canister along the rest of the knife, for instance, so that the jacket, the back of the canister, or the back of your knife, has the low carbon, which low carbon steel is better at shock absorption. It helps to, it's, so you would use that in the event, for instance, if you're bashing your knife against bone or other metals, for instance, you would have the blade, the edge would be high carbon, exposed high carbon, but then the back or the bridge, the spine of the knife would be low carbon, so that it helps to absorb the impact when your knife hits a hard object. So what this guy does, I'm assuming he is working with steels that are not necessarily high carbon. So when he makes a canister, when he's prepping his canister, he takes a pepper grinder and he grinds pepper, like black pepper, for instance, or he'll cut up like jalapeno peppers, or he'll cut up peppers, and he puts that in the canister as well, because what it does is it as the steel heats up, it's adding carbon to the steel, which is turning a lower carbon steel into a higher carbon steel, so that you have more carbon in it, which allows the blade to become hard, opposed to being a soft carbon or a low carbon steel that won't harden. And the first time I had seen it, I was like, "What the fuck? Why is he adding?" Like, he's just randomly, he cuts up a pepper and puts the pepper in the Woots process of Damascus. I'm not sure. I've never heard of the Woots process, so I don't know what that is. But I was like, why the fuck? You just described it. So is that the Woots process is adding carbon to a Damascus blade? I'm assuming. Like, specifically adding carbon to a Damascus blade so that it becomes a high carbon product instead of a... Okay, gotcha. So, I had seen this guy, like, he cut up a pepper, and, like, I don't know what kind of pepper, red chili or something, chili pepper, and he put it inside the canister, and I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Is he cooking now? So I looked it up, and there wasn't, at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of information about it, but I came to learn that it was basically adding extra carbon to... You've never heard of someone doing that? I came to learn that it was basically adding extra carbon to the lower carbon steel, so that you end up with a higher carbon steel instead of having a sword that won't stay hard. You end up with a sword that will stay hard, right? Because having a hard sword is critical to keeping an edge. If your edge is not high carbon, it'll the lower the carbon of the steel, the the less the less your edge will keep an edge, right? So like when you have to sharpen knives, you have to resharpen it because it's losing its edge, right? The higher your carbon content on the edge, like after quenching, the better your blade will retain its edge. So you don't have to sharpen it as frequently. But he makes Damascus. He makes like crazy cool Damascus patterns. Like for instance, he made like a dolphin pattern on a knife. So I just spilt water on my blankie because I was rinsing out my coffee mug, and I spilt water on my blankie. I'll see if I can find it. So he takes and makes he made a dolphin pattern, and then he restacks the steel a bunch of times so that he ends up with like a bunch of layers, and then he ends up with the dolphin pattern running along, like swimming along the edge of along the side of the blade. Let's see if I can. I don't remember what his YouTube name is, so I have to try and see if I can. Damascus Sharap. So, if you've never seen his content, I highly recommend checking out Shurap. It's SHURAP. He does a lot of cool blade designs using Damascus processing. But the interesting thing, I'm gonna try and bring up, if I can find the video, I'm gonna try and bring up the dolphin blade so that I can show it on stream. I'm not gonna show like the whole video, but just like a portion, just like the start, like the start and end result of getting the dolphin. So the ads, I don't know if you guys are able to hear that currently, but I will add the audio once these ads are done playing. Let's do some YouTube for a moment. Application audio, YouTube. So we're going to add audio and our window YouTube screen. This. So, can we make this full screen? So this is the start of his blade. He cuts out like a dolphin pattern from steel, and then he makes basically a block out of. So he's using two different kinds of steel here. The one in the center, I'm assuming, is probably a low carbon steel, or lower carbon steel, and then the one on the right that he cuts the dolphin out of is probably a high carbon steel, which gives you the differing colors, which becomes more prominent. So there's a process in blade making that I'll talk about that becomes or makes the design more prominent. I want to also let's take this, because I want my avatar to be visible. So let's take this and move this down here so that we can see my avatar. Why? Oh, that's because I moved the audio. I meant to move our screen on OBS. There. So we can see my avatar. So he puts the dolphin into the block of steel. He's welding it together so that the two pieces so there's no air gaps, basically, and it holds the steel together so that when he heats it and presses it, the steel is going to stay together. It's not going to move. So this here, he's heated it to a suitable temperature, and he's pressing it in a die that creates a square shape, and you can see the steel is like yellow. That those sections where is my mouse is visible. Yeah, my mouse is visible. So these sections here, where it's like turning brown, that is oxidation on the steel, which we mentioned is basically super rust. So that's all of that stuff. It's part of the forging process. It's created in the process of forging a blade. All of that stuff is no good. You don't want it. It's rust. But it's created super quickly, and you either grind it off or you brush it off with a wire brush, or if you're this guy, man, I don't know how he does it, but like I hope he does it in this video so I can show you. This guy literally, like, so the super rust comes off of the metal, but it like falls onto the dye and like the his working surface, and he just uses his flesh hands. He uses his flesh hands to brush the metal away, the super hot metal away, and like, so the metal that he's working with is probably like 1,000 some degrees, but like the metal that comes off it is colder, but it's still hot. It's still probably like 500 degrees hot Fahrenheit, and like he's just brushing this metal, the super rust, away with his meat paws. And it's like, what the fuck, guy? Like, how are you able to do that? So that so this is the super rust shedding away from the metal as he presses the metal and expands it. So he's pressing it down into a square, so that he has a bar, a square bar to work with. So he takes this square bar, and now he wants to use, ideally you want, in forging, with working with metals, when you're going to stack them, you ideally want clean surfaces, but you want product that is all the same diameter, all the same length. So we can turn off the audio from the game because we don't need that. So you want metal that is uniform in shape and size, because it makes it easier to make that metal stick together. If you have like overlapping metal that's like hanging over the edge, then you have gaps and voids where there's going to be air, and like it just doesn't work well. The metal doesn't stick together, so you want nice uniform shapes. So he has a bar of steel that is all, so he's going to take this long bar of steel, he's going to cut the ends off so that he has nice flat ends, because you want to have nice flat ends. But then he's going to cut that bar of steel into like 4 or 5 sections, and then he stacks that bar of steel together again, so that he can turn it into Damascus. So right now, technically it is Damascus because it has 2 different types of steel, but he only has like he has 2 layers of Damascus, kind of. It wouldn't really technically be qualified as a Damascus blade at the moment, because like the Damascus doesn't like run entirely through it. It's like a portion of it, kind of thing. So he's gonna stack these so that he ends up with a proper Damascus blade. But he's gonna stack and re-weld the metal. So the process of heating the metal to a high temperature, to like 1,000 some degrees, and then pressing the metal together to it basically, the metal reaches a temperature where it is able to like melt together. So so it's hot enough that it's not liquid, but it's hot enough that when you apply pressure, it causes the two metals, the two different metal pieces, to melt together and fuse and become one solid piece of metal. That is called weld. I mean, not only that is called welding, because like welding you can, it's the same process, but like you can use a welder to weld metal onto another piece of metal, which it's basically superheating the metal and fusing another piece of metal onto it. Same process, but just doing it through a different method. So he can. So he cuts the end off the bar, so that he has nice flat ends, and then he cuts that bar into 4 sections, so that he has 4 nice uniform sections that are all the same size. They all have flat ends. So this here at the end, on either end, that is basically unusable metal. It's not like the ends are not a uniform shape, so you would basically throw that away. However, so this wouldn't be usable in making in the process of in this process of making a sword. However, there are other ways to make swords or tools out of metal, which is called casting. So this steel would not be usable for this situation, but you could take that metal, and instead of wasting it, it is, for this situation, it is considered waste material. But you could take that metal and you could superheat it to, I don't know, like 2,000 degrees, whatever the melting point of steel is. You would put it in what is called a kiln, I believe, or forge, and no, not forge, kiln maybe, and you would put it in a crucible. You would put it in what's called a crucible, and the crucible gets to like 2,000-3,000 degrees, and it will superheat the metal to the point that it becomes liquid. It's just solid liquid. It's solid liquid. It is the entirety of the metal is just liquid. And then you would take that liquid and you would pour it into a predefined cast. So you would have like a shape that you want the metal to mold into. So for instance, if you're casting a sword or casting a key, you have the... Oh god. Oh, we hit play. So let's snooze these ads because we're in the middle of talking. So you use the you pour the metal into the casted, I think it's called a cast, and it takes the shape that you want. So you would have like a sword shape or a key shape, and you pour the metal into that, and then when it cools and hardens into a solid object, then you have a predetermined shape. You have a key or a sword shape that you can then work with, and so you now have a sword by having melted the metal. Instead of like pressing metal together, you've just melted it into a solid, into liquid, and then it turns into a solid block. And then you would grind away whatever you don't want, and you're left with the hardened steel that you do want. But so he takes, and so the steel that he took from the block that he made that long block of steel, long ingot of steel, and he cut that into sections. So those sections would all they would all look the same, because the dolphin was only in one section. So when he takes and separates them, they're all the same. So here he has the dolphin going the same way, but he wants contrast on the other side, so he has the dolphin going the other direction. So he just turned, flipped the block so that the dolphin is facing in the opposite direction, so that it causes a bit of contrast, a bit of difference. So he's going to weld these 4 blocks together, and then he's going to press this into a one ingot again. So he welded the 4 blocks together using a welder, so that it all holds together, so that it's not going to separate on him during the heating and pressing process. So this is what is called flux. I believe flux is like high carbon or something. I'm not entirely certain, but it helps to prevent the oxidation process. So when you have gaps in metal, you would put flux into the gaps of that metal, so that you don't end up with forge scale between the gaps in the metal. Because if you have forge scale, super rust, in the gaps of the metal, that it's a chemical reducing agent. Gotcha. So the flux helps to prevent the forge scale, so that you don't end up with super rust in between the gaps between the 2 pieces of metal. So that, because if you do, that's the super rust stops the metal from bonding together. It creates a gap, so that they don't become one solid piece. So the flux stops it from creating super rust, so you are able to get one nice solid piece. God, our ads are gonna keep. This is probably gonna take more than 10 minutes to, and hopefully not 10 minutes. We'll snooze them again, but so that's what the flux does. He presses it into a square again. He presses the four segments into a square again. Presses that down to size. Again he has forge scale coming off, which is the super rust, which is what you see here, shedding off of the block of solid steel. And interestingly, I think I can. You might be able to. I might be able to show it here. So. No, it didn't. Oh, here. So right here, you can actually see. You can see a line here where the two steel blocks meet. That is showing that it is not one solid object. But as he presses it, you can see this line disappear as the metal block, as the steel blocks fuse together, becoming one solid object and becoming one solid block of steel instead of multiple blocks that are just like stuck together. So here we see him like this forge scale, this super rust is basically like, it's cool compared to the rest of the block of steel, but it's probably like at least 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and he's just using his meat paws to brush that away off of his working station. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, that is so hot. Like, how do your meat paws handle that? So he's using what's called a die here, and this allows him to get a nice uniform. So when the press comes down, it'll press the metal to a point where this meets this block here. So that stops the press from going any further, which gives him a nice uniform size and shape to the block of steel, so that it's all the same shape and all the same size. Because again, we like to have uniform steel pieces that are all the same shape and size, because it's easier to weld together.
$20 for a knife. My buddy said I got scammed until they watched this beast work.
So here he's using what's called a power hammer to bait it into submission, to make the metal do what he wants. He's using a grinder to I don't entirely know what he used, the reason behind this part is, because that doesn't entirely make sense to me. But and like why he only did it to one. I think he only did it to one side, or maybe he did it to all four sides, all four corners. It was probably so that when he does the twist Damascus, instead of having a square, he has instead of having like hard sharp edges, square edges, he has a more rounded edge to the corners. So this what he's doing here is called twist Damascus. He is literally taking and twisting the steel in a... Has it been 5 minutes already? Jesus. These snoozes are not giving me very much time. Let's snooze the ads again. So he's twisting the steel, and once twisted, he's going to press it again into a square shape, which it gives a neat design to the steel after it's been worked. So here he reheated it, because you always want to be working with hot steel. As you work with the steel, it cools down, and it eventually gets out of the optimal temperature, so you want to reheat it and then come back and twist it some more. So he's twisting this a lot of times so that he ends up with a nice tight twisted pattern. So you can see here, you can see the different layers to the twist, because like you can actually see where like the metal is like twisted, and it almost looks kind of like a coiled spring. So again, using his meat paws to brush away the super rust. Some more twisting. Here he's using a wire brush to brush away the super rust, and then flux to make sure that as he beats this, he wants the metal grooves to like come together and become one solid block of steel again. So here he's just using a regular hammer and then a power hammer. This is he. I think he would basically be thermocycling. It's not quite a quench. He's using rather than using air, he's using I don't know, sand or something as a thermal conductor to take the heat away from the steel, so that it cools down, so that he can work with it again. Here he's cutting it into blocks, into square-shaped blocks, so that he has nice uniform pieces of steel. So he ended up with a single. So he's cut away. So this the all of these pieces on the outer ends are going to be basically, as far as I'm aware, they're going to be basically just throwaway material. He's only going to be using the center piece, as far as I'm aware. So he's hammering that out, and he's going to expand that piece until he has a nice knife-like shape. He's forging out the maybe. Yeah, he is actually quenching that. I've aside from him, I've never seen a quench done in the centerpiece is the billet, and that is what is used to craft the blade. Yeah. So I've aside from this, I've never seen a quench done in sand or some kind of whatever that was. It's normally done in oil that is warmed up so that the steel doesn't crack. You want a like you would warm the oil up to like maybe 200 degrees or something, but you want it cool enough that it takes the heat away from the steel, but you want it hot enough that it's not going to cause the blade to crack. So we have ads coming up in a moment. Unfortunately, I can't snooze them again. So we are going to mute our YouTube, and we're going to go back to our game for the moment, and we will we will play PowerWash Simulator for a couple minutes while ads run, and then we will go back to our video once the ads have finished, and we will finish our video up. Finish up our video. It is also pill time, so I got to take my pills real quick. We're not going to go to our BRB screen, but it'll only be like 30 seconds or so. We'll do that while ads run. BRB. Okay, we are back. It looks like ads are still running, so we will finish up this little bit of wall while we wait for our ads to finish. And then once ads finish, we will go back to our YouTube video. Okay, so it looks like ads are just about done. Are you back, Cathwick? Are you back from ads? Can you hear me? So let's mute that and bring back our... Oh, that's why, because I haven't... Okay, so we have a rough knife shape. He is hammering out the tang, what is called the tang of the knife. It is this section here. That is what will become the handle of the knife. I don't think he's gonna... I don't think he's going to do a through tang handle. I think it's probably a multi-piece handle. It might be a through tang. I'm not sure. So there it looks like he was quenching the blade in the sand. So this after forging his knife, this is what it looks like, which is it doesn't really look that great. It doesn't really look that unique, right? It's not it's nothing to write home about, right? Um, is okay, yeah. Our audio is coming through. Um, so it's nothing to write home about. The blade doesn't look anything really great. Um, that's because it hasn't been like he's got to grind off the super rust that's still there. He's got to polish it, and then there's another thing called etching, which we'll get to later, shortly. So here he's grinding off the super rust, the forge scale, and like the hammer marks, etc. So now he ends up with a nice, clean silver piece of metal to work with in a knife shape. So he's taking this is he's putting so here you can it's not super visible here in the cooler parts, but in the hot parts you can definitely see the pattern of the dolphins. But this he's putting a what's called a maker's mark on the knife, or a forge. I think there's another name for it, but it's a maker's mark. It's basically tells you who the maker of that sword or the maker of that knife was. It's like his signature on the knife, basically. Or like, or his company name, for instance, is an often referred to as a hallmark or a touch mark. Yeah, yeah. Okay, here he's doing his quench here. So the earlier the with the sand, that was probably a form of thermocycling, which I've usually seen thermocycling in Forged in Fire. At least they usually they'll heat the knife or sword to a high temperature, but then to like quench temperature, but then they'll like wave it back and forth, cooling it down using air, they'll like fan it back and forth to allow air to pass over it to cool it down slowly. That powder is most likely an AH3O CO3 or similar. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what that is, but are you able to enlighten me as to what rather than what the powder is. Are you able to enlighten me as to what the powder does? Was it for thermocycling or sodium bicarbonate? Okay, I know what I've heard of sodium bicarbonate. So the here he's going to quench his knife. Um, oh, so he's heating it to quench temperature, which is quite hot, and putting it in a probably the oil was probably pre-warmed, and so that's going to rapidly it quickly reduces the temperature of the knife. It makes it the temperature drop from like 1,000, 1,500 degrees to like, we'll say a few hundred degrees very rapidly. It rapidly reduces the temperature, and this causes the steel to like harden, and that's how you get a hardened steel that will keep an edge. It's called quenching. So here he's putting it in an oven, which is he's going to temper it. So this oven is going to sit at like, I don't know, maybe 100 or 200 degrees, something like that, for like 24 hours or something. And it allows the knife it gets rid of the brittleness of the knife. Because currently, that knife, if he were to drop it or like bang it on other knives or swords or like bones or metal, the knife would not necessarily always break, but it is more likely to break and crack and fracture. So the tempering helps to reduce the brittleness of the knife, so that it is better able to withstand impact. So usually that process is called annealing. It's called annealing. I've always heard it referred to as tempering. Is tempering and annealing something different? Or is it like annealing is the scientific term for tempering? Okay. So annealing is like the scientific term, while tempering is more of like a layman's term for it. Gotcha. So here we have
Connor McDavid and Connor Bedard had childhood ambitions to become architects. CIBC would work with them every step of the way. Or if they wanted to be mechanics, we'd have a personalized plan. Just like we'll have a plan for your ambitions too. CIBC,
like,
ambitions made real.
Emma's philosophy was go, go, go.
He always, in his
But what
videos,
she really needed-
while his knife is tempering, he'll start up this little propane stove, and he heats up a kettle of tea, or he heats up water, and he makes himself some tea. Each video is different. Sometimes it's like wildflower tea. Like I've seen one of them was like dandelion tea. I don't know what this is, but he's making himself some tea of whatever this is, some kind of leaves, dried leaves. Of course, the leaves expand as they get water. He's got to have his tea while his knife tempers. So here he's gonna polish. Well, he's grinding. He's gonna grind the knife. This is grinding the knife into shape. So he's gonna grind like so right currently he has a knife shaped block of steel. So he's going to thin the knife along the blade so that the blade goes from here at the back. We see there's thickness to it. He's gonna thin the blade so that it comes to a nice thin edge along the blade, and then he'll sharpen that and make it able to hold an edge, or well, make it hold an edge, like giving an edge to the blade. Here he's taking off excess material, excess steel that he wants to get rid of. He's polishing his knife. So this is called acid etching. I'm probably going to get this wrong. Hydrochloric acid, maybe? It's some kind of acid. And what it does is it reacts differently to different qualities of steel. So like a high carbon steel will look relatively similar. So a high carbon steel will still shine like silver. It depends on what the steel is for the type of acid. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. I thought it was always just one specific type of acid. I did not know that it varied depending on what type of steel you're using. So the acid will react differently depending on the quality of the steel. A low carbon steel is going to turn black or darker, while a high carbon steel is going to retain its silver sheen better. But this also depends on as well on how long you acid etch it for. So if you were to acid etch it for say like a minute, you'll have like it won't be as dark. It'll be less dark. But if you were to acid etch it for like an hour, for instance, it eats away more at the steel and causes discoloration, which the sole purpose, as far as I'm aware, the sole purpose of acid etching is entirely just to show the design, to show the design that you've created on the blade. I don't think there's any other reason aside from the look of the blade to acid etch. I think it's solely for quality, for like not quality, for aesthetics. It's solely for visual aesthetics, so that the blade looks nice. So he's gonna acid etch his blade, so that the design is visible. So here he's putting the knife in water and washing the acid off, because the acid will continue to eat away at the knife as long as it is on the knife. So you put the knife in. As far as I'm aware, it's just water. It might be water mixed with something, with a base to neutralize the acid. But you're washing the acid off so that it stops working, so that it stops eating away at your blade. Because I imagine if you let it, like, didn't wash it off, it'll probably eventually eat through the knife, and you would have like holes in your knife, or like divots, I imagine. So that's why you want to cancel or stop the halt the acid etching process. So here we are able to see the design of the dolphins a little bit more clearly. I am not sure what this is. Oh, I think this is coffee. I think this is coffee, which does a similar thing. He's using the coffee as to stain the metal as well, in a similar, not a similar process to the acid etching, but he's using the coffee to etch or to stain the knife so that it changes the way that the knife looks. So he soaks that in coffee, and then it, depending on the quality, like the types of steel, it affects the knife differently. So now he has kind of like a darker look to the knife, and while the dolphins still have a nice silver to them, very visible. So there you are able to see the finished product of the knife. That's what that's what the layers do, is they add they make it they make the dolphin, make more of the dolphin basically, so that it's visible, or more, not visible, but so that the design continues. Dipping into that tray also adds a protective layer to the blade and the design. Huh, interesting. So let's see if I can, we'll show some of his other, so that one wasn't Damascus. Well, it was Damascus. I misspoke. It wasn't a canister Damascus. So we're gonna look at a canister Damascus, but I also want to see this one is cool. I want to showcase some of his other works here. I have never seen this one, so we'll take a look at that, because the blade looks like it might be really nice. Fishing hooks, I'm fairly certain I've seen that one. And there was one oh, pins. Did I? Oh, I did grab that one. So I'll explain why one would use Damascus and where it came from. I did explain that, like, having the layers gives you more, makes the sword more durable. But so here he has a canister of a bunch of nails, basically. Puts some black pepper in and cuts up some chili peppers along with the seeds. Can't forget the seeds. And puts that in his canister because it adds extra carbon to the canister, so that the blade becomes, the working material becomes a higher carbon content instead of lower carbon content.
The Kia Seltos is as comfortable on the road
So we have
as it is
basically
off the beaten
same
path.
process showing all the same
Find
things.
your all-year drive in the Kia Seltos.
Kia, movement that inspires.
Especially side sleepers. So I almost made the dumbest mistake of my life. I got this contour pillow called Darila Ergo.
So here he takes and makes three separate blocks that are all roughly the same size and shape, and he's going to weld them together using flux to make sure he gets a nice bond. Here is actually a nice visual where you can see here where the layers are between the different blocks of steel. You can see that line that runs across the block, and as he presses it, you'll see that it that line basically like melts together and becomes one solid block of steel, which is, personally, I think that's so neat to see it like all fuse into one block. You can literally watch it happen. So he's this process, what he was doing, he expanded or like moved the steel in different ways, like diagonally and stuff, which it changes the pattern that you end up with in the finished product, instead of like just expanding it out like out horizontally. You get like a different result than what you would if you just expanded it straight out. So again, grinding away the forged steel, Maker's Mark, the sodium bicarbonate, I believe, is what we established that was. So here, this one, he puts, I think it's like a layer of clay or like mud or something. And what that does is it it allows the, I think he's gonna take this into the plan. Yeah. So, this mud, or clay, it acts as a thermal conductor. So, the steel on at the edge of the blade is gonna harden and become strong, hard, brittle, but the steel behind it, the spine of the knife, is going to remain softer. It's not going to get up to the same temperature, so it's going to remain softer because the clay or the mud or whatever it is he's using is taking the temperature away from the knife, away from the rest of the knife. So here he quenches his knife in oil, tempering, tea again. This one has like a cake of compressed dried flowers. Each of the teas is always a different tea, which is neat to see. So he's acid etching it again. For a second, I thought that was like an air raid siren, but it's probably just like one of his machines running. Oh no, it is an air raid siren. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he is in Ukraine. I believe this YouTuber is Ukrainian. And I think this had been taking place during the war with Russia. I don't know, is that still going on? But I think some of his videos took place during that. So that's probably an air raid siren. So here, after the acid etching, we're able to see that he has so the knife is dark along the edge, while the rest is silver. So I think I'm not entirely sure. I may have got it backwards earlier, but I think so. The high carbon would be the edge, which is black, while the low carbon is the spine, which is silver. So the high carbon, the carbon, it probably reacts with the carbon, making it black, because carbon is black, basically. I mean it makes a black soot. While the low carbon would remain silverish. So the acid etch gives them that difference between the two types of steels, the high carbon on the edge and the low carbon in the rest of it. But all of the pins and the way that he moved the metal is what gives him this nice, beautiful pattern to the knife. So this one. So this is the powder I had mentioned earlier. We had mentioned that when making a canister, you you use a steel or iron powder, aluminum maybe. I don't know. It's a metal powder because it fills the gaps and makes sure there's no like air pockets or anything. So he's gonna take a piece of probably low carbon steel or low carbon metal, and he created a cool design out of it, a flame design, and he's gonna place that in his canister and then fill the rest of it with powders so that the flame design keeps its shape. And then when he presses it heats it up and presses it, it'll keep that beautiful flame shape that he's created. So the design is probably low carbon, while the powder is a high carbon metal. So he's tapping it to get rid of any air pockets, to make sure all the powder falls down
Your
into
$200
the
puffer
voids.
keeps you warm at the coffee shop. But as soon as you
I'm sorry,
step
guys, about
outside,
the
you're
ads.
left looking.
I know you guys deal with ads on my channel, at least Twitch users. I'm sorry that you also have to deal with our YouTube ads. I do not have YouTube Premium, so unfortunately, ads are a thing. Pressing and expanding his steel, cuts it into 4 pieces, and then he's going to he takes and like turns each of the pieces so that the flame design continues out from the center along all of the pieces. Flux, of course, to keep to make sure the steel bonds together. He is doing twist Damascus here again as well. So as he draws it out, it'll have a beautiful twisted design to it. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose was of cutting this section out here. I'm not 100% certain on that. I think what he does is he's going to push these pieces inwards together to create. He's gonna crush that together, and it does like a weird, neat thing with the pattern. Yeah, so he's hammering the 2 ends together to create one tip. So here we have the product before forge scale was removed. We have tempering, or the quench and tempering. Oh, he doesn't do tea in this one. I didn't do any tea in this one. So again, acid etch, which will it makes the the high carbon rather of the edge and along the spine. It makes them nice and black, while the low carbon of the design is still silverish. I'm not entirely certain what gave it the blue color. I don't know where that comes from. It might be, you might show it afterwards. Or, I don't know. I don't know what the blue comes from. But, this is the final design of the knife. The outcome, finished product of the knife. Here you can see like the twisting of the metal, and like all the different layers of the metal, as well as the flame pattern going along the center of the blade. I think that's so neat. Personally, I love like some of his knives, like beautiful work. Again, highly, if you're not following Sharap and this has interested you at all, oxide layer could cause the blue tinge when heated, maybe. If you're not if this TED Talk has interested you at all, absolutely go follow Sharap. And I haven't, but I don't like people's videos. But absolutely go follow him, and if you feel it worthy, give his videos a like, show his channel some support, because he makes great content. So this one is he takes steel chainmail gauntlet or glove, and he's going to make a blade out of it. So I think I'm not sure what this is, but I do know on Forged in Fire, some contestants, what they'll do is when they want to remove the can from a Damascus product, they'll put whiteout in the can. So they put whiteout in the can and let it dry, and then put their material in after it's dry. And what that does, the whiteout creates a layer between the soft steel of the can and the hard steel of the inner piece product, or like your pieces and your powder. It creates a layer so they don't bond together, which allows you to like cut and pry off the shell, the soft jacket, the low carbon jacket. I have literally no clue what he's using or why it's gray. It could be whiteout. I don't fucking know. But it's not white, certainly. I don't know what it is, if it's the same thing, but that's probably what he's using it for. Ooh, here he adds some salt to this one, and he makes it salty, and I don't know what that is. Maybe black pepper. I'm not sure entirely what that one was. That was some steel powder, and then his chainmail pieces. Add some more powder to fill in the gaps, and then he's probably gonna some more salt. I'm not sure what the salt is for. But I know like the pepper adds carbon. I'm not sure what the salt does. So he adds black pepper and some chili peppers. for the carbon. Once it burns up, it becomes carbon. I'm not sure entirely why he drilled the hole, because most people don't. Most people usually do a fully sealed can, because if you don't, if you have any opening, the steel powder will come out of the hole and burn up, and you'll end up with gaps in your product. So I'm not entirely sure why he drilled a hole. Maybe to like relieve pressure from the inside of the can. I'm not sure. So of course he's pressing it into shape, cuts off the ends, he cuts into like pieces that he can. Oh, that's taking the canister off. So he ends up with it's not pretty, but he ends up with his billet of material that he's going to work with, and the low carbon steel jacket has been removed.
Hello, my name is Alexander Yermak. Until 2022, I was a musician.
Tea here again. This tea seems to have, I don't know, it's got like green leaves and like brown bits to it. Grinding, sharpen his knife, acid etch, polish, tempering, blue sheen to it. I'm not sure. It might be, as Catholic mentioned, it might be oxide layer from being heated, but that is the.
I've spent the last 2 months working on this 7.
That is the result of this chainmail knife. This one, fishing hooks. He takes a bunch of fishing hooks. He's going to put them in a canister and put some extra carbon in. Fill it with steel powder. Oh, he's pressing the fish hooks down. He wants it nice and compressed. A nice tight weave of fish hooks. And then he's gonna add some more carbon, fill it with powder properly, and then press that out into shape, cut them, restack it, press it again, forge it into a rough knife shape. Make some more tea. I don't know what that is. Oh, it's like a ball of dried flowers and leaves. And then There's the design from the fish hooks, along with the etching. So the difference between the silver steel and the black steel is, again, because of the acid etch. Without the acid etch, there would be far less difference. I did want to see this one because I've not seen this one, and it looks like it would have a neat design to it. So I believe the design is probably low carbon steel, while the outer shell is high carbon steel. He's welding it with I believe that's called a MIG welder. I could be wrong. Pressing the steel into shape, probably going to cut it into blocks. More meat.
The finest luxury fragrances are now exclusively available at your local store. Unstoppable's unlimited collection makes everything smell
magnifique.
Luxury laundry scent feed so you can smell unstoppable.
Check out the big stars, big series, and blockbuster movies.
So he ends up with a rectangle again, nice uniform rectangle, and then he's going to cut it into segments so that he grinded the edges off, the corners off, so that he can twist it, get a nice twist pattern. I'm not sure what the purpose of grinding the corners off. It might make it easier, I don't know, or like it changes the design, I'm not sure. I've never seen anyone else do it during a twist pattern Damascus, but who knows? I don't know. And then he's going to twist a lot. Do the twist and shout. And then he gets his billet that he's going to. He's doing the tip here too. Split the tip, and then he welds the tip together into the point as well for this one. Tempering tea. It almost, this tea, it's like probably like berries or something, but it almost looks like peppercorns or something. It's probably like dried berries. Maybe cranberries or something. Polishing, acid etch. Ooh, that's cool. I like that. That is neat. Okay. That is all we are going to show of his content, because This isn't a steal other people's content stream. I mean, reaction content is allowed, but I kind of feel bad about just like sitting here playing and reacting to someone else's material. If you enjoyed our TED Talk and you think that forging knives is cool, definitely go check out his other videos, because he has a lot of videos and they're probably all worthwhile watching, to see the different knife designs and stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed my TED Talk. Catholic, I hope it was enjoyable to you. I really must say it was great interacting with you about this. I hope you enjoyed my TED Talk, and I hope you learned something from it. And if you didn't learn something from it, I hope you enjoyed talking with someone and hearing someone else talk about their fascination of forging. I mean, I don't forge knives. I am not that skilled or talented. I do not have the patience or the ability or the workstation to forge knives, or the mental artsiness to come up with a pattern. But I enjoy seeing other people's works. I truly enjoyed hearing you talk about something I know a lot about, and you have quite a bit of knowledge. Not as much as I would like. There's a lot of things that we came across that I don't quite understand, like the reason to, but like can usually maybe like logic it out for some things. Like I know that, for instance, that like with where he cuts the section out of the tip of the knife, and then he presses them and welds the two tips together. I don't know, like I don't think there's any benefit to that structurally. I think it's solely for design, because it would change the pattern of the knife as it comes to the tip. Also, it gives him like a center point for the knife to come to specifically in a knife that you want in like a dagger kind of, where it comes to a central tip, instead of the tip being like at the top of the blade, for instance. I have, so all of my most of my knowledge of forging and metalry, tempering, etc. Like all of the knowledge that I have imparted today has come from Forged in Fire, from watching Forged in Fire. I've seen every episode of Forged in Fire and enjoyed every single one of them. It is a great show. If you enjoyed our TED Talk and you have not seen Forged in Fire, you absolutely should check it out. Great show. It is a reality series about a game show, kind of competition show, reality series about forging knives, but they don't only forge knives. They also forge like swords, axes, etc. And like all kinds of neat weapons. It's not only do you get to watch forging, but you also get to see lots of interesting historical weapons, or interesting weapons from history. Also, Catholic, thank you for sharing the information that you work in heat induction and plating, because without that, we would not have had today's TED Talk about forging and etc. It would have just been more PowerWash Simulator. And I did enjoy discussing, talking, explaining the processes behind forging, etc. It was enjoyable imparting knowledge upon others. Ooh. Oh, right. He added salt to one of the knives. I know the black pepper and peppercorns add, or black pepper and chili peppers add carbon. Catholic, do you have any idea why someone would add salt to a canister, to a knife, other than making it salty? I know that pepper and chili peppers add fire damage to the weapon, to the knife, so that when you hit an enemy with the knife, it does fire damage as well. Do you know what salt does to a sword or knife? To a canister? Oh, right. We were gonna explain why Damascus became a thing. So, Damascus was originally, I don't know where it started. I've heard it was started in India, but apparently, but also like Japanese swordsmiths used Damascus. So I don't know where it actually started. But the reason for Damascus was that they primarily were using what's called pig iron, which is basically it's really shitty iron. It's low carbon iron, and they would layer the Damascus, so they would forge it out, and then restack it, and then forge it out again and restack it, and forge it out again and restack it, and they would do this repeatedly to make the iron stronger as well. They likely used in between stacking it, they probably did a similar process as to what Sharaf did, where the adding pepper and chili peppers, because they wanted to get they were working with low carbon steel, but they needed a weapon that would, like samurai swords for instance, that would retain their sharpness. So between adding extra carbon and repeatedly stacking the billet, repeatedly forging out and restacking the billet, it makes the steel stronger, more durable, etc., so that it can hold an edge and is less likely to lose its edge, retain its sharpness, etc. that is why Damascus initially became a thing, is because they were working with really, really crappy metal that normally would not hold an edge. So they manipulated the metal until they had metal that was strong enough and durable enough to hold an edge and had enough carbon in it that it could maintain its edge and hardness. Also, incidentally, I always thought that, for instance, I know that Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, I know his sword is called a Masamune. And there's, like, I can't think of any at the moment, but I know there's, like, swords that have specific names, and I always thought that the name came from, like, was a specific type of sword, but a lot of older weapons got their name from the smith. Like, for instance, a Masamune is named after the smith whose last name was Masamune. Now, granted, the smith, the Masamune smith, never actually made Sephiroth's sword, because Sephiroth is a fictional character in a video game, but he made swords that were of the same basically looked the same as that. He had made that type of sword. But the Masamune, for instance, the name comes not from the type of weapon, but from the maker of the weapon. It's the smith's name, which I only recently, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, learned that. So relatively recently. Oh, 821. There are traces of an odd luminous ore everywhere. I've never seen anything like it. Hang on, there's something else up here. On the volcano. Look out, an aircraft just shot straight out of the volcano and it's heading your way. Oh. As much as I would love to continue streaming, I think we're going to call it there for today. Thank you all for hanging out. It has been a blast. We had a fun time chatting with Cathwick.